Jim Anderson. And now, your host, Jim Anderson. Good morning, Buffalo. Good morning, Buffalo. It's Conversations with Jim Anderson, but sadly, it's not Jim Anderson. It's Austin Martin today. It's a pleasure to be here today with you guys. And I have a very interesting interview today regarding nicotine and the Black community in Buffalo. Before we get to the interview, I want to say a couple of things. First off, if you want to be a part of the conversation, you can join at the request line at 716-837-1112. Before I get straight into the interview, I just want to take a second. It's my first interview on air, and I just want to say a quick thank you to two people. First, starting with my parents. I know it takes a village to raise a kid, and I think I'm going the right way. I think I have a good head on my shoulders, and I want to say thank you because without my mom, my dad, and the work they do, I wouldn't be here. I also want to say a quick thank you to Jim Anderson for giving me this opportunity to be on here and be a proponent for my success. We have a call before we even start, so caller, you are on the air. Caller, you are on the air. Hello?
Hey, Austin.
How are you doing, Jim?
All right. You already on?
We are already on, yes, sir.
Okay. Well, anyway, I just wanted to say to the listening audience, you're in great hands. We got a magnificent host sitting in, and we got great guests. I don't know if you already introduced them, but I just want to say hello to Amanda Huxell and Dan Martin, and the topic that they're bringing is right on time. And you got the right person in studio today to really fix it up and carry it forward. And when I do, looking forward to Stan hooking up and we can plan something for the future also. But I want to say have a great show. And Austin, break a leg. Don't rough up the guests too much. But and with that said, y'all have a good show. Listening audience, you can call in at 716-837-1112. Stay on topic. You're not dealing with a rookie in there. You're dealing with somebody that know the ropes. So, and be kind. And listen to the information that's going to be extracted this morning. And with that, I want to say to all of you, more power, soar. And I'm going to do like everybody else. I'm going to tune in and listen and share the word here where I'm at to everybody else so they can get all excited and get on the good foot. All right, peace and love. Have an awesome show. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. And piggybacking off him, I want to say, like he said, we do have a really great interview today with two great, intelligent guests, Amanda Huxell and Stan Lee. I know Stan Martin. I see, go straight to the action figures, but
not the same last name.
Right, Martin, man, doing great things.
That's right.
Not to talk for too long, though. I want to give you guys a chance to introduce yourselves before we go into what you guys do and the work you guys are doing for the city. So, is there anything you guys would like to say?
Ladies first.
Thank you, Stan. I just want to say it's a pleasure to be here this morning. I always enjoy coming on the shows. It's a great time, and I'm ready to have a discussion about some really important things that are happening in Buffalo and across our nation.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. Good morning, Buffalo. It's great to be here. Thank you, Jim, Austin, and the team for this wonderful opportunity to share some information with our community. Hey, I'm ready to get it going. Stan the Man Martin, born and raised native of Buffalo, native son. So let's go ahead and get it cracking.
For sure. So I'm relatively young. In my generation, we didn't deal with cigarettes, right? I was born into the generation of the e-vapes and things of that nature. But nicotine has been an issue that's been around America for many, many years. And even though it was a decline in a little bit, it's popped up and resurged in the past couple of years like we haven't seen really before. So what you guys are doing is you guys are combating this through efforts to create housing, multi-unit housing and work sites that are tobacco-free outdoors, and working with the youth to push initiatives to put nicotine in the past. Can you talk a little bit about a general overview of what you guys do and some of your main key points and the things that you guys try to address in your work?
Sure. I think I'll probably start with our organization, and I'll pass the baton on to Amanda. She, talk a little bit more about our programming. But the Tobacco-Free Erie Niagara team here is a project of CAI, Chickatelli and Associates, which is out in New York City. But as a director of the Buffalo office, I'm privileged to work with Amanda, who's here today, Sean Smalls and Kristen Duvlos. here who's a part of our team as well, to really advance tobacco-free communities. Our overall mission as an organization, though, is to utilize the transformative power of education and research to foster a more aware, healthy, equitable, and compassionate world. So that fits right in alignment with what we're trying to do with the Tobacco Free Erie Niagara initiative. So I'm gonna ask Amanda if she could expand a little bit more on that.
Yeah, thank you, Stan. So, Tobacco Free Erie and Niagara, we have two components of this program. I have the pleasure of overseeing our youth component, which is called Reality Check, and the other component is community engagement. So, you touched on it, working on policy through work sites, businesses, as well as outdoors to ensure that we are upholding New York State's tobacco-free norms through the work that we're doing. I do want to touch on the youth program, of course, because that's my baby. So we're a statewide movement, and our program really works alongside youth. It's a youth-led, adult-supported. I really want to emphasize that because, I think the power of the youth can go a long way when there are people in their corners who are pushing them and motivating them, telling them, you have the power, you have a voice, and you can make the change. So with our youth program, we really look at tobacco through different lenses. One of them being social justice, and I'm sure we'll get into that when we, dive into menthol and the issues of menthol in Black and Brown communities. But overall, our youth program really is activated and on the ground across both counties, really trying to change the way that their communities view tobacco and view e-cigarettes, to really try to change the norms and not make it as prevalent in their communities, among their peers, and in their schools.
Wow, that's super powerful. Destigmatizing and then peeling back the curtain onto what tobacco really is. I recognize, and maybe this is a little bit just of a personal question. I recognize when you're trying to make a change on things such as nicotine that is so heavily cemented in our communities, it oftentimes brings a lot of pushback. So my question is, just to build the trust, I want to ask you guys, what got you guys into this kind of work in general? I'm just curious. It's not easy. Like you guys said, it's something that's had a foothold on the community of Buffalo and the community of America for a while. So what got you guys into this line of work specifically, and what is your heart point? What is your pain point for nicotine in the Buffalo communities?
Austin, that's a great question. I was thinking about our conversation, this morning, and I was reflecting on my past and where I am and where I'm headed. Not just in terms of public health, but also me as a professional and as a person. And as I was, having this moment of reflection, I actually been involved with public health for over 30 years now, believe it or not.
Wow.
Okay. However, when it came to tobacco, I've been involved with tobacco issues roughly over 20 years now. And the reason I got involved was specifically with tobacco because I read a document, I read a statement from the tobacco industry, from a tobacco executive. And the executive was asked, do you smoke? Do you utilize tobacco? Your own product. And the executive said, we don't smoke it. We reserve that right for the young, the Black, the poor, and the stupid.
Wow.
And that's what I said. Wow. And ever since then, 20 years to this day, that has stuck with me. That has been my passion. That has been my purpose. That has been my motivation to inspire and to save the next generation from becoming replacement smokers, family members, friends, nephews, nieces. So I get emotional even now when I think about that statement and what it means and how hard it hit me. So I'm still fueled by that. And that's what encourages me to continue to move forward, because we're at a tipping point right now where either we can move forward or we can fall backward. And that's what I'm really, really trying to invest in terms of moving forward to save lives. So thank you for the question.
And I would say, so I grew up in Lackawanna, New York, and growing up, I always was reflecting, as Dan said, looking at my community, analyzing it, and seeing the differences in how people were growing up, my friends, and the different privileges that some had and some didn't. And I would look at that, and it inspired me. I can remember ever since middle school, I always wanted to work with young people. And I always thought that for some reason in our world, young people are often thought of as unable to make decisions and speak for themselves and be their own human, even being young. And so that is part of why I love the work that I do, is because I can be that person for some students. I can be there as a trusted adult and help them grow and help them become leaders. Not become, because they have it in them already, but to really inspire and activate them, as well as family. I grew up with smokers. My great grandmother passed away from lung cancer, so also, as Stan said, there's that emotional pull, because it's been in my life and I've been exposed to it through family, through the stores growing up. And when I started this job, I never realized how invasive tobacco marketing was. So in November, I'm coming up on 4 years. I never thought I would be here, but I wouldn't rather be anywhere else.
Thank you, Amanda. And just one other, point I would just like to make before we move forward, Austin, especially for our listeners. And Amanda and I, we try and make this point, whenever we're having this type of discussion. The tobacco-free Erie Niagara, ourselves included, we are not against smokers. We are not against those who utilize tobacco products. However, we are against the tobacco industry intentionally targeting and marketing a deadly product when used intended kills people. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here to educate and build more awareness about. So I just wanted to say that to those who are listening, and just to be aware that we're not against those who utilize tobacco products. What we are, however, against the tobacco industry marketing this deadly product in our community.
Right, and that distinction is important. I just want to touch on what you said about that comment. How could you send your kids to a school if the principal's own kids wouldn't even go there? When the people creating the product don't advocate for it, that speaks volumes about the real benefits of that product. And like you said, tobacco is very invasive. Touched many lives, has touched mine. I've lost family to like lung cancer as well. So fighting this issue is great work that you guys are doing, and I commend you guys for taking the step up. Getting into actually the work that you guys do, explain a little bit about when you talk about a tobacco-free outdoors. What does that look like for Buffalo? What does that look like for communities? And what image are you guys trying to create, or a smoke-free community? What community are you guys trying to create with that?
So I can start here. Through our tobacco free outdoors work, we try to eliminate litter. So litter is cigarette butts are the most common form of litter. There are approximately 4.5 billion cigarette butts littered every year. So when we think about the beauty and upholding our community, cigarette butts, tobacco products, all of that litter, it's debeautifying it. And together, myself, our team, and the wonderful youth in this city, we come together, and one of the ways we do this is through tobacco cleanups. So we have done those in the past with organizations like the Police Athletic League, Community Action Organization, and ourselves. So going out there and ridding the cigarette butts, the litter, because the more we see it, we know the more likely we are to think it's normal, to use it. So if we can eliminate the presence of litter and secondhand smoke, it allows families, children to go into these playgrounds, these parks, these outdoor spaces without having to worry about being exposed to that secondhand smoke that has about 7,000 chemicals in it, and the litter that seeps into our earth, seeps into our soil. So cleanups are one way that we really try to eliminate the presence in that tobacco-free outdoor space.
That's super cool. And I know you touched on secondhand smoke. Can you explain the dangers and the real issues with secondhand smoke? Because I think for a lot of people, it's kind of just, something we talk about, oh yeah, secondhand smoke, or secondhand whatever. But what are the real dangers, the real facts, and the real data that really create such a worry about secondhand smoke for our children in our community?
Yeah, so according to the Surgeon General, there is no safe level of secondhand smoke exposure. It doesn't matter if you're inside, outside, that secondhand smoke is going to affect you. And when we think about young children who are around secondhand smoke, we think about them developing asthma, other lung issues, things like that. So we need to protect the young people. We need to protect adults, people who do smoke and people who don't smoke, because secondhand smoke, including third hand smoke, needs to be addressed, and it is not safe.
Right, and recognizing that non-safeness, how any level of secondhand smoke can affect you, and like you touched on, young kids developing asthma. Moving on to this next point, you talked about tobacco-free outdoors, but what's that next level? Tobacco-free housing and tobacco-free work sites. What does that look like, and what are some of the policies that you guys are trying to push or bring awareness to surrounding that?
Yeah, that's a great question and a great segue, Austin. As Amanda mentioned earlier, there's no safe level of exposure to secondhand smoke. So when you think about the pandemic, let's start with that. When you think about the pandemic, where many people were sheltering in place, in particular multi-unit housing complexes, and Buffalo, in terms of our weather, inclement weather, um, many people were smoking inside their homes, and therefore exposing family members, children, all right, to secondhand smoke, which can lead to ear infections, asthmas, other health complications. So one of the things that we at the Tobacco Free Niagara team, it was very important and incumbent upon us to educate residents who live in particular in housing complexes, multi-unit housing complexes, about the harmful effects of secondhand smoke, not only to themselves, but also, to other family members and other residents who live within those apartment complexes. Because it's not like the smoke say, well, I'm just stay right here in the living room, or I'm gonna stay in the kitchen. But no, it travels through the doors, it travels, through the vents, et cetera, et cetera. So even though, I mean, think about elderly and people who might have some other health conditions, even though they themselves might not be smoking, but because the smoke travels, it's also creating, a hardship or a burden onto them. So one of the things that we have done is to work closely with residents who reside in multi-unit housing complexes, work closely with those property managers as well to build awareness and education surrounding how do you protect, residents, and children to create a smoke-free or tobacco-free complex, a healthier place, to reside. So we've been able over the past, I would say, close to over 5 years now, because the grant, our funding, we should have mentioned this earlier, comes from the New York State Bureau of Tobacco Control Program. But over these past couple of years, we've been able to implement policies, strengthen policies in multi-unit housing complexes that have impacted over 500 units. I'm gonna say 500 units, not 500 apartment complexes, but 500 units overall. So it's a growing. We're building a groundswell. We're building momentum. In that regard, we see a lot of multi-unit housing complexes are calling, and residents and property managers asking for assistance. We provide all information on how to quit, where they can go to, for more information. The New York State Smokers Quit line, 1-866-697-8487 is that number. Just a quick plug for them. And then also, one of the things that in terms of work sites, we work with work sites to strengthen their worksite policies. The Clean Indoor Air Law went into effect, I think around 2000, the early 2000s, 2004, 2007, what have you. But nonetheless, there are still advances that have been made by the tobacco industry, all right, to combat the Clean Indoor Air Law. For example, e-cigarettes, electronic cigarettes, vaping. So we work closely with employers, all right, to strengthen their policies to include electronic cigarettes, to include or prohibit vaping within the workspace. And depending upon where you work at, it could be some hazardous to chemicals, other products, the product itself. So we build that type of groundswell, that awareness, that education to advance tobacco-free communities. Amanda and I was talking. It's one thing earlier, and this morning actually, and I was sharing with her. It's not just about the individual behavior change that has to happen. The environment has to support the change that the community wants to see in order to support the norms. So that's what we try and do with the Tobacco Free Erie Niagara, our team, our work, and to really help those who want to quit to quit, and to meet people, whether you're in the work site or you're at a multi-unit housing complex or what have you, to meet them where they're at. To meet them where they're at,
Right.
to assist them along the journey, to come alongside with them.
Right. Stan, I go to church, but let's play devil's advocate for a
The
second.
devil don't need
If
no.
I were a smoker in a multi-level unit housing, like you talked about, this isn't a push against smoking. This is not what you guys do. You guys are against the advertising and the push in the community. But smokers themselves is not the enemy. What would a healthy relationship between non-smokers and smokers look like in a multi-level using housing? Because what I see, like we talked about, when you're dealing with such a chemical that has such a foothold in a community, is part of the pushback may be, if I am a smoker and I do want to live and coincide in a balanced, peaceful relationship with non-smokers, but I don't want to feel like I'm getting pushed into I'm getting ostracized, right? I don't want to feel like now I can't smoke at work if that's something I use to relieve myself. So could you get a little deeper into what the healthy balance in you guys' eyes would look like between smokers and non-smokers in such example of a multi-level unit housing?
Well, I'd like to just say that I think it starts with conversations, open dialogue and conversations. So to meet people, to understand each other, we have to sit down and we have to talk about it. And I think that often gets forgot about when issues and other things arise, right? We have to sit down and really look at it. I do want to also say that, smokers, people have the right to smoke. They have the choice to smoke. Reiterating, we're not against smokers. However, other people have the right to breathe clean air.
Right.
Right. And I think that's a powerful statement, what Amanda said, breathe. I just had a call last week, someone from, who lives in a multi-unit housing complex, who's dealing with multiple health complications, health issues, and exposure to the secondhand smoke threatens their ability to live.
Right.
Period. So and the statement that they made was, what about my right to breathe? To breathe.
Right. And like we talked about, it's a right to breathe. It's a decision to smoke. And so young people being brought up into these households where they're not allowed to have that decision to breathe.
Or voice.
Right. Or that voice or that space to make that complaint, to make that just an ask. Hey,
Right.
Mom, I don't want to go to school smelling like XYZ, or hey, I don't want to breathe in these chemicals. Explain more about Reality Check. I know you talked about the youth aspect of it and getting the youth involved, and I've done some research, and you can check out more on the website if you guys would like to plug that as well. But talk more and get deeper into what you talked about as the youth side of this fight against tobacco.
Yeah, I would love to. And I wish the youth could be here with me, but on behalf of them, I will definitely share out the amazing things that they're doing. So recently, Governor Hochul has proposed, all flavors, including menthol. And so the youth in our program really firmly believe that flavors are the sole reason why their peers are starting to smoke. And when we would have these conversations about how the industry uses flavors, fruity, candy, flavors to try to hook the next generation, they get mad. Nobody likes to feel manipulated or marketed to, right? So they go out in the community, they do, like I mentioned, cleanups, environmental scans, which we call in the tobacco realm retail observations. So going out and looking at stores and seeing just how much is marketed at the eye level, where these products are marketed, as well as social media. We know the power of social media, right? And so the youth take on social media projects. One of the Reality Check youth leaders just did a social media project for No Menthol Sunday, which was yesterday, a National Observance Day. But more so, they also really feel strongly about writing. So they have written countless reflection pieces and letters to the editors, sending them to news outlets, sending them to their elected officials saying, hey, this is our concern. We are the next generation, and this is what we're worried about, and here are concerns, and do something. And their voice is powerful. And through Reality Check, they are able to really use activism and leadership to make that change that they want. So we have a couple different areas where we work through. Of course, tobacco-free outdoors, the work sites, and housing. Also, we look at smoke-free movies and media, which really dives into, again, how the tobacco industry has made its way on screen. Now, through TikTok, through Instagram, all of those channels that young people are using and consuming, young people are using media more than ever. And as Stan had mentioned, COVID. We look at how much time people were inside and watching streaming services and Netflix, TikTok, making videos, trying to connect with the world using media. And what we're seeing is big tobacco is having influencers, young people who young children would look up to using these products, promoting them. So in our smoke-free movies work, we try to, of course, educate and raise awareness, sending letters to our Attorney General, the MPA, who oversees the rating systems for movies. Our overall goal is to eliminate smoking and tobacco imagery in youth-rated movies and films. So one example I always like to give is Stranger Things. I'm not sure if there's listeners out there who have seen Stranger Things on Netflix, but in almost every episode, there were scenes of one of the main characters smoking. And when you look at that, when you're a young child watching these shows, again, we think about the normalization of using it. So through that, we work with our community as well as our local elected officials. And this year, students from North Tonawanda High School came together and they presented to the North Tonawanda City Council on the importance of reducing smoking in youth-rated films in media. And the North Tonawanda Council actually unanimously voted to support a resolution to do such, which is a great win. It's great that we have that kind of support at the municipal level as well. So those are just a few things. I mean, I could talk for hours about it, but just a few things that the Reality Check youth are doing out in the community and on the ground every day.
That's super cool. The last question I have before we get into our commercial break is this. Can you give me an example of, I know you talked about some initiatives that you guys pushed in legislation, but can you give me examples of where you see major gaps in policy regarding youth marketing? Because it is different than just marketing on the TV or radio to adults. There's a different level of things, or there's a different impact that it has, like we said, on social media channels, specifically targeting things that young people use. What are some of those gaps that we have? Where are we missing? What are we missing policy-wise to protect our youth from having to be exposed to that and being normalized to that? I know you talked about, like you said, through what they did and the recent push, but what are some other gaps, at least even bigger than just what you talked about?
I would say the most major gap right now is menthol, is flavored tobacco. Whether it's on screen or whether it's in our community, the gap is really the removal of all flavors, all flavored tobacco, including menthol, from the community. That's the major gap.
But I have a question for people that want to smoke menthol flavored cigarettes. Is it wrong to take it away from people that choose to do that?
Wow, you know what? That's a great question, Austin. Another one. So you came ready today. So this morning, actually, here's the issue: the tobacco industry has put forth that narrative, and they put forth the narrative that it's the African American community or Black community that chooses to smoke menthol, when in reality, it's the tobacco industry that has intentionally marketed tobacco to the Black community. For example, in the 50s, if you could allow me for a moment, in the 50s, the prevalence of tobacco use, menthol tobacco use, was roughly around 5%. Fast forward to the late 60s, it kind of like tripled to around 14, almost 15% of menthol tobacco use within the African American Black community. Late 70s, it had tripled again to roughly around 42% within the Black community. In the 2000s, now it's 85%. 85% of African Americans, or those who identify with the Black diaspora, use menthol tobacco.
And I want to get more into that, and we'll talk more of that after the break. We're going to go to a quick commercial. If you want to join the conversation just before we go to a commercial break, you can again call in at 716-837-1112 to talk more to our guests. We'll have more for you after we come back. Thank you, and have a good. We'll see you in a little bit. Sorry about the one question. I was trying to talk about where our politicians slipping, but I wasn't able to phrase it right. The gap wasn't
They
that.
can hear you on a live. On this live.
Oh, that's fine. That's what I was trying to get to, but I couldn't phrase it right. When you're speaking, sometimes I know I've done interviews before. When I'm speaking, sometimes it's hard to find the words on the fly, and the fact that people can hear me in Buffalo got me a little nervous, so I had a little bit of stress to it too.
No, that was a great question and a great segue
I
to
appreciate
this
it.
right here, so we can pick up on that when we
Right,
come
and
back.
then we'll jump straight into part 2, like you said, all flavors, not just menthol. That's very interesting. Menthol is mint, correct?
Yes.
It has that minty.
At 10:50, I might have to leave. So just grab my stuff and go.
All right, that's fine.
And keep the mic in front of your face. Great job. Great job.
Did our commercial play?
Mm-hmm.
That was the 15-second one?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This one just played?
Big Tobacco's customers are dying. I'm pretty sure that one just played.
Okay. And this one's supposed to play before we go into the second part. So after we talk about menthol, a little bit more about menthol, we talk about the history. You can go into that a little more if you want to about why menthol specifically. Because I know you on your website there was a section on that as well. And then I'll see if you can play this.
Western New York employers, do you need help finding the right people for your most in-demand roles? The Say Yes to Buffalo Honor and Youth Apprenticeship Program connects Western New York employers to a pipeline of bright
Say hi to the people online. Hi, people online.
Hi, people online.
Hey, folks. All right. Thank
Happy
you for joining
Monday.
us. Appreciate y'all listening in. Please send us some hearts, some thumbs up, and some smiley faces, all of that.
All that.
Appreciate you.
So we're right back where we left off, like we were talking about menthol. We're talking about nicotine in the community of Buffalo, but we're specifically talking about why menthol. I'm gonna let you continue what you were talking about before we went on break.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you again, Austin. Before we went on break, I was just talking about the African Americanization of menthol tobacco here in the United States, in particular, as it was targeted, marketed, to our community. So when you look at our culture, when you look at our history, the tobacco industry has infused menthol tobacco with our artists. I might be dating myself for those listeners who's out there who can remember the Cool Jazz Festival. Those concerts that were sponsored. When you think about the billboards that was all throughout our community, Newport Cigarettes, Alive with Pleasure. Come on now, really? Alive with Pleasure? Stop it. All right. Looking at some of our artists and entertainers, our athletes, who were seen as role models or what have you, or access to a better lifestyle, a different way of life. The tobacco industry did its homework, its research, and recognized that this was a way that they can reach our community, that they can reach African Americans, that they can reach the Black community by targeting their product with these imagery and with these celebrities and other aspirations, that will resonate with folks. So that history that I just shared with you was just basically shows how that targeted marketing has been successful in reaching, when you look at African Americans, over 85%, as I said, those who smoke menthol tobacco, which then leads to 45,000 African Americans, Black people dying annually each year as a result.
And if I could, Austin, Stan mentioned a popular brand of menthol cigarettes, Cool, and I have a pack right here that we use for presentations and whatnot. And I just wanted to read what is on this package. Again, just speaking volumes of how this marketing is used, and the big tobacco industry really tries to sell and manipulate how people look at menthol. So it says Cool Filter Kings. Cool provides a smooth, rich taste by blending tobacco with premium menthol. Since 1933, our blends have been enjoyed by smokers who seek a true menthol experience. So marketing it is like this extravagant, new, awesome thing, when in reality, like Stan said, these products, when used, can and will cause disease and death. So they make these the packaging and the colors with the bright green and the sleek text, all just showing, their will and just how far that they'll go in the thinking and creation of how they market these products.
Right. It sounds good. Doesn't sound
Right.
like they're describing
Sounds like
cigarettes.
you'll be cool, right?
Yes, that sounds very cool. But recognizing that, you mentioned over 80% of African American smokers are using menthol. We recognize when things are banned, right, and there's a dependency on them, people go to other lengths to find them. So a question I just want to put to you is, if we ban menthol and we create a block there, will it allow or create an illicit market or an underground market where now people are not only smoking things that are going to give them damage and are hurting the community, but now they're smoking them from unknown sources? Is that a danger that you're worried about in doing this work?
Wow. Let's keep it real. There's already a illicit market, that exists out there for folks for whatever they want.
Right.
Okay. To answer your question directly, there has been, this is like what we're proposing. It's not like it has never been done before. All right. Other countries, Canada, Brazil, the EU, the United Kingdom, have banned menthol, from the shelves. Okay. And actually other cities here in the US, have banned, or states, I should say, California and Massachusetts. And what the research has shown, that it has been no increase in terms of, folks utilizing the illicit market, for the purchasing of menthol tobacco. And actually, what it would do, and the research shows that it would actually encourage folks to quit.
Stan, that's a great point. And the data shows that actually nearly 65% of young menthol smokers say they would quit if menthol cigarettes were banned.
So it's deeper than just the cigarettes. It's the menthol specifically. And what I'm hearing from you is the U.S. actually has to catch up. We're catching up. This is already something that we know is terrible, and we're following suit. So I have a question. Is there examples of other countries and their policies that we should learn from? Are there other examples that other countries have adopted for banning this? Like you said, I know there's the data to support it, but are there other things that we should be looking at them for regarding policy around cigarettes?
Well, certainly, like I mentioned, Canada, they've set a tremendous example. I actually used to work in Toronto, Canada, on their smoke-free Ontario strategy. I think one of the other policies that we could look at, it may be successful, it may not, but hey, what the heck? I think Amanda, those who are participating on the radio can't see this, but maybe even having tobacco imagery, the harmful effects of. Can you pass me that, please?
Mm-hmm.
Having the harmful effects on the product itself. Some countries, some places have done that, have utilized tobacco imagery showing, the harmful effects in terms of it has on the body.
Right.
We see that with some of our commercials. So that's going to resonate with some, and for others it may not, but at least it reaches a particular audience.
Right. We have a caller, I'm pretty sure. Caller, you are on the air.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, my name is Dr. Amy Joel. I spoke to Mr. Anderson. I wanted to make a special announcement.
Yep.
I've been listening to your program and I thank you for the information. But I'm calling to announce I have a scholarship program for young people who are going to college in the fall. It's a scholarship program I created in honor of my late husband. It's the Romeo Dorn Muhammad Scholarship. And I just wanted to let the audience know, if you know of a young person who needs scholarship money, I have money available. And the deadline, I extended the deadline to June the 2nd. Because I've only had one person apply for the scholarship. So that's why I'm calling. So if people, if anybody is listening, they could call me at 847-6010. And if they lose that number, they can contact me at the Criterion newspaper. I write for the Criterion newspaper. So that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to invite young people who are going to college to contact me and apply for the scholarship. They have until that's the only announcement I wanted to make.
Okay, and before you leave the call, can I just ask you one more time? Could you repeat the number just one time for listeners so they can make sure they have it down?
My phone number is 716-847-6010. I've been doing the scholarship for 14 years. I'm a retired Buffalo public teacher. I'll say it one more time, 716-847-6010. Thank you very much for allowing me to make this announcement.
Of course. Thank you so much for calling in.
Program. I'm listening to it. You have very good information this morning.
I appreciate it.
You have a good day.
Have a good rest of your day. And if anybody else would like to call in, you can at 716-837-1112. I have another caller as well. Caller, you are on the air. Hello?
Hello?
Hi.
Hello?
Hello? Hi, you are on the air.
Is this the radio station?
Yes, ma'am.
I was calling to speak about the non-smoking program.
Yes, ma'am. You are on the air. We can all hear you.
Oh, I was calling to applaud your organization for your devoted efforts to try and help people of all ages and races to help them to stop smoking, and especially with the menthol program that you're currently supporting to stop the company from producing menthol cigarettes.
Thank you so much, Grandma. You are so well spoken. I wonder where I get that from.
That's your grandma.
Oh my gosh, am I at the radio?
Yes, Grandma. we will chat after the radio show. Thank you for calling in. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. I have another caller as well. 3 in a row. Caller, you are on the air. Hello?
Yes, hello. I'm calling and piggyback off of what the caller just said. I think you guys are doing wonderful, wonderful work. And it shows that you care about your community, that you're out here doing this. But I do have a question. The people of power, or the people that can make this change and take the menthol tobacco off the shelves, are they supporting what you're doing? Are they helping? I mean, I'm just trying to find out because knowledge is power, and now that you're putting all this power out in this community, and are you talking to the people that can make a difference? And if you are they trying to help you make a difference?
Yeah, definitely. I would love to answer that question. So I want to applaud the Buffalo City Council here in our community for taking steps to reduce the amount of tobacco retailers in our city. So in Black and brown communities, there's approximately 10 times more tobacco retailers compared to non-Black and brown inner city communities. So I just would like to really speak to the regulation that was passed a few weeks ago, which will now require tobacco shops, vape shops, hookah shops to relicense, to make sure that they're following through with all of their fees and making sure that they're, upholding the standards that they need to do. But also, I really want to highlight that this is coming from protecting youth. There's no reason at all we need a vape or hookah or tobacco shop on every corner of our streets in this city. Again, the more we see it, the more likely people are to use it. And I think that this is a great step in trying to curb the presence of especially menthol, because we know menthol products are marketed more heavily in these communities. So a great step in reducing the presence and the likelihood of new smokers.
Any more callers coming in? This is great. Obviously, this is an important topic issue.
For sure. Callers, anything else you'd like to say, or did they? Oh, we have another caller.
Yeah, that's
we do have another caller.
Yeah.
Caller, you are on the air.
Thank you very much. Hey, so this is Rashawn. I had the pleasure of working with both of those fine individuals. Great job. I was really wanted to ask you to discuss a little bit about some of the upcoming events that we have in relationship to menthol.
Sure. I think that I think we're probably gonna get to that later on in the show. I don't know how much time we have, but since we're here right now, certainly one of the events we have coming up is a No Menthol funeral that's being sponsored by the radio station WFO. We're one of the major sponsors, also the Buffalo Center of Health Equity, led by Pastor Nicholas. That's going to be taking place on June 24th at the Millennium Hotel. I'm going to provide more information about that.
A few other upcoming events I'd like to highlight. I've been invited on Council Member Brian Bowman's Coffee with the Council show. So I will have the privilege to spread more education and have a dialogue with council member about these important issues, just really trying to spread that education and get these messages out more, along with one of our reality check events happening on May 30th in Niagara Falls at Packard Court Community Center. And that will be Chalk the Walk event, where students come out and line and load parking lots and sidewalks with menthol messaging and education. So anyone listening, more than welcome to come out and join us. It'll be fun, free refreshments. Hopefully we have a beautiful day. It should be May, so fingers crossed. We know how Buffalo weather is. So, but stay tuned.
Yeah. Austin, can I just highlight one other? Not sure if there was another comment or question from Rashawn.
Yeah, no, thanks for the great job. Y'all, and definitely appreciate the discussion, even as the back patrol professional, but really get an opportunity to sit back and listen to you discuss this issue right here. That's definitely encouraging me to get back out there too. That's what happens. This is a movement. This is a movement. This is something that we plan on being here and making some difference in the health and wellness of our community. So thank y'all both.
Yeah, thank you, Rashawn. And Austin, if I could just highlight real quickly, I know we're probably running short on time. One event that we just had yesterday, Rashawn was a major part of it. Amanda, myself. Yesterday was No Menthol Sunday, which is held the third Sunday during the month of May. It's an initiative that brings the faith community together from across the world, from across the globe, to really speak to their congregation about preventing the initiation of tobacco use, promoting tobacco cessation efforts as well, helping those who want to quit. So just want to give a super shout out to Pastor Nicholas over at Lincoln Memorial United Methodist Church, him and the folks over there who did a fabulous job of infusing, this message into the sermon in terms of breaking the chain of addiction and creating a movement, supporting a movement, in this regard as a result of, countering the tobacco industry efforts to provide a long-term, lifelong addiction to a deadly product when used as intended kills people.
Right. I want to say thank you to all the callers. You helped make the conversation go a little easier. Like you said, we are running a little short on time. And so I want to jump to an important part that I just want to hit. I think I would be amiss if we talked about the history of menthol and the usage and its prevalence in our communities without talking about how we can actually make a change. If I'm a listener, like you talked about with statistics, 65% of youth smokers that smoke menthol would quit if menthol wasn't around. For any listener listening who wants to quit, what are some steps they could do, or what are some things they could do to either get in contact with you guys or make their lives easier? Like we talked about, when cigarettes are around and prevalent, you can be Superman all you want, but even Superman has to be Clark Kent sometimes. And for those to make it easier for themselves trying to quit, how could they help themselves, or what advice could you guys give them to help them make more steps in that direction?
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, I'd like to welcome anyone to join in our movement, whether that's a young person to get involved with our reality check program, or an adult, our community champions who want to get involved. Please reach out to us. My email is ahucksoll, so that's AHUCKSOLL at CAIglobal.org. Stan, if you want to
Sure.
hop in.
Yeah. S Martin at CAIglobal.org. SMARTIN at CAIglobal.org is where I can be reached at.
And then as far as the cessation services, and if people are looking to start their quit journey, or maybe even just thinking about it, you could call the New York State Smokers Quit line at 1-866-NY-QUITS, 1-866-697-8487. They also have a text service, so you could text at 716-309-4688. There's also the Tips campaign, which is a series of videos of lived experiences from former quitters. They also have resources, excuse me. So as far as like the motivation of listening and seeing other people through their journey, that might inspire some motivation, as well as a program called This Is Quitting. So this is centered for youth and young adults, and it's a age-appropriate service where you are delivered a message that's tailored to your journey, your age. And that is, you text Ditch Vape, so DITCHVAPE to 88709. And this program has helped over 500,000 youth and young adults on their journey. So I would definitely recommend those services, as well as reaching out to us.
For sure, and that would definitely be things that should be important, should be written down, because like you guys talk about, this affects many communities, affects many people. I know we touched on the events that you guys have done in the past. I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to go into, or if you guys want to talk about maybe powerful moments and events in the past, just as a way for people in the future to find ways, like you said, more ways to connect with you guys. If you guys could recap some of those events you guys have in the future, maybe touch on some important ones that you had.
Thank you. I think one of the things I just want to highlight recently, Governor Hochul had made a proposal, put forth in her budget to remove menthol, from the shelves. And there was, tremendous pushback, in some regards, here in Buffalo, from our some faith leaders and, some other provocateurs. Just want to highlight the fact that, the tobacco industry, really have spokespersons, to really, we call them I call them provocateurs. Let me say that to promote their message or a false narrative. And what we want to do, even though that the legislation or it wasn't included in this year's budget, we want to invite more conversations, as Amanda mentioned, so that we can have conversation with those who you say might be opposed or might not have all of the information so that they can make an informed decision. So we want to encourage more discussions around this topic, the subject matter, more community forums. The fight isn't over, and certainly we want to make sure that, we don't allow the tobacco industry to continue to keep our community divided and confused, because at the end of the day, it's all about their bottom line. They put profit over public health. We put public health over profit.
Right. That's super dope, and that's super good to hear that movements are being made in that direction. I know we have touched on a lot of things, and I bet there's a lot deeper we could go. Is there anything else you guys want to say, maybe to any smokers on the fence of making that decision? One of the greatest things I learned as a young person was one day a wiser person told me that life is hard, and it prepared me for the journey a little bit better, because it helped kind of take back that veil that I thought, oh, I'm facing conflict, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. For those smokers on the line or struggling with making that decision, I know you talked about some motivational resources, but is there anything you want to say specifically to talk to the heart of those smokers that are trying to make that decision but are finding themselves struggling?
Yeah, I would just say quickly, and Amanda, you could chime in if you would like. I would just say that, be encouraged. It takes, research shows, once again, it takes at least 7 to 9 attempts before someone is successful, at quitting tobacco use. Some people can quit cold turkey, some can't. Sometimes you need other support. You need the proactive counseling, which is offered, over at the New York State Smokers Quit Line. Once again, that number is 1-866-697-8487, 1-866-NY-QUITS. Also, you might be able to have access or be eligible for some nicotine replacement therapy or some gums, some lozenges, some patches, So those are just some of the things I would encourage people to do. And as I mentioned earlier, it's not just about the individual change. The community has to create the change as well.
And I would just say, don't give up. Austin, like you said, it's hard, and don't give up. We talk about tobacco; it's an addiction, and don't be discouraged. If you're on your quit journey and you have a couple of stumbles and you might pick up a cigarette again, don't give up. Keep on going. Keep on trying. And as Stan said, just be motivated and stay encouraged.
Right. It's a great work you guys are doing. It was a pleasure having you guys there and being able to conduct the interview. I just want to say a thank you to both the mixer, the team, and you guys for being here, and WFO for having me today. It's been a pleasure learning about nicotine and how it influences and some of the history of it in our community, some of the impacts of it, and what people are doing to combat it. It's definitely an issue that will be hopefully not around for too much longer if we keep doing our work, but it's something that will be in the history books for sure, and you guys will be in there next to it. So thank you guys for the work that you guys are doing.
You.
It's been a
Thank
pleasure to be
you.
here, and have a good day, Buffalo. Thank you.
Say bye to your pimp. I know you're stressed out. Say bye to the people.
People on the line.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Facebook. Is that Facebook Live?
He's on Facebook, YouTube, and
I feel like I just diffused the order.
no, wait, he's saying something.
Oh, somebody's coming in. We got to what's the call?